It's the SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast with Tony Rourke and Kevin O'Flaherty.
SeizeYourBusiness.com, making you money. Share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, Twitter, our blogs, YouTube videos. Listen to our podcast, getting so hot that it's burning up the stereo.
Welcome to the SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast, coming to you from our speakeasy in lovely downtown Downers Grove, Illinois. Our guest today is Andrew Flesner from Erasti Rehab Center. Our hosts are Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law and myself, Tony Rourke from ADR Business Resource Group. If you find the podcast helpful, or if you just want to help us out, we would appreciate it if you would review us on iTunes and even share our podcast on social media. So without further ado, I'll hand this over to Kevin.
So Andrew's a very good friend of mine, and I'm going to call you Doctor once in this podcast, and that's it. So Dr. Andrew Flesner, thanks for being with us. Our topic today is going to be health tips for business owners and how your health affects your business. So Andrew, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do and your experience?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. To talk a little bit about officially what I do. Again, I'm with the Erasti Rehab Centers. I practice out of LaGrange, Illinois, so Chicago suburb. And really what I focus on, we'll say at work, is helping people with musculoskeletal issues, injuries, both acute, so brand new things like a sprained ankle, or something chronic like I've had lower back pain, for 5 years type stuff. So that's what I spend most of my day doing. And within that, the way sort of our treatment works is hour-long visits, one-on-one. So most people have probably had some sort of physical therapy or chiropractic care, or, they've gone to the doctor at least once in their life. And they've all got kind of those horror stories of the bad things that happen. Either they sat in the waiting room for an hour, or they, had a treatment plan that lasted, 36 visits, or they were bounced from doctor to doctor to doctor before they found some kind of relief. So the way we look at it is to try to fix all that. So no one ever waits more than 5 to 10 minutes to get in to see me. That full hour is spent one-on-one. That allows us to basically be part of the thing that allows us to fix people fast, and really just try to turn sort of the typical doctor's visit on its head and really give the patient, outside of fixing them, the best experience possible. So, but within that, again, the focus is on kind of like musculoskeletal care. So.
And my wife has been a patient of yours, and she had a great experience with it. And before we get too much further in, Andrew is also the writer of our Entrepreneur Health and Lifestyle blog. So if you're liking what you're hearing from him today and you want to learn more, you can check out his blog articles at SeizeYourBusiness.com. But so how long have you been a chiropractor for?
Well, since beginning of 2011, so a little over 4 years or so. But, when I first started out, and I think anybody who's a chiropractor that listens to this will probably kind of agree with me and sympathize with what happens in any real, a business owner in general, or anybody kind of going out after school, trying to build up patient base or build up a business, et cetera. Sometimes it's hard to know in what direction to go in right away. So for me, a lot of my patients ask, oh, how long have you been with Erasti or doing what you do? And before Erasti, I actually worked in technically 5 different offices, 5 different clinics. Part of the reason was, some just, it wasn't a good fit. But the other part of the reason was I knew coming out of school that I wasn't 100% sure how I wanted to practice, because there's a lot of different ways you can go at it, at least within the chiropractic sphere or healthcare in general, from nutrition, musculoskeletal care, you name it, acupuncture. There's a lot of different avenues you can take. And so I wanted to experience a little bit of everything. So I knew, hey, I'm gonna try out different stuff. Also, learn more of the business side too, because in school we don't learn a ton about business.
Yeah, I didn't learn any of that in school either. So
yeah.
I sympathize.
So, I knew I was going to have a pretty big learning curve before I kind of landed on what I really wanted to do. So I'd worked at a lot of different places, from what you consider like traditional chiropractic care, which is a long-term treatment plan, 3 times a week, for 4 weeks, et cetera, all that stuff. Kind of, you want to keep the patient coming back forever and ever, which from a business standpoint is a good idea, because you kind of can predict what your revenue is going to be each month, all that stuff. So it's not a bad business plan. But for me personally, I knew I was a little bit more on the side of, wanting to do what was right by the patients and wanting to do what was in their best interest. And then, the business side would kind of follow that. So yeah, I worked in different types of offices, and then finally landed with Arasti a little over a year ago, after kind of learning about, their philosophy, which is to focus on the patients. And by doing that, the business will follow, which is true in some regards. But it's been good. I really enjoyed it so far. So
I got a follow-up question on that. With the 5 different places that you were at, how long was that time span?
Each place was probably anywhere from about 6 to 7 months to the longest one was about 1.5 years. One place I was at for 1 month. And I knew pretty quickly that was not going to work out. So I got out of that pretty fast. But I mean, one place I was at, I had some spare time. One of the previous clinics, I was more of what we call like an independent contractor, a little bit similar to now, where I took a percentage of whatever I made. But I didn't work, your typical 40, 50 hour week. It was kind of like half days. So I had some spare time outside of my marketing and networking. So I found an office that was actually closer to my house. A chiropractor was looking at selling it. And so I worked there maybe 15 extra hours a week, for more of a flat rate to get an idea if it was an office I wanted to buy. And I think anytime you can be in that situation, because a lot of times, a chiropractor, what they see as their retirement outside of maybe saving on their own in an IRA or something is selling their practice. So to them, they see you as their retirement. Basically, if you're coming in and you're asking, oh, hey, I know this is for sale. And a lot of times you don't get that opportunity to kind of experience it and see, is this going to fit for me? Because it's not necessarily, well, is this a good location, all that. But usually when you sell a chiropractic office or most medical offices, you take on at least 50% of their clients if you're lucky. A lot of times it's less. So you want to know if that patient base and that treatment model is going to fit for you, because if that office has been seeing a lot of patients that are used to more of a traditional chiropractic option or whatever your practice is, and then you come in and you try to change that, a lot of patients are going to go, no, I don't really like this, and they're going to be dropping off. So I got an opportunity to work there, I think, for about 5 or 6 months, just on the side, kind of seeing how things go, and realize like, hey, this is not for me. Both I saw it in a financial standpoint and can kind of see like in the future how the practice would go, and realize this isn't going to work. I mean, location was great, price was really good, but I knew in the long term it was going to basically fail. And it might have worked for somebody else, but for me, and it's funny because I think about 8 months later, the practice closed and it's gone. So if I would have bought that, I might have been out of luck there.
Well, that's a really good lesson. And, people coming out of school, a lot of medical professionals especially think, I'll buy into a practice. That's some good advice to see if you can work in the practice and make sure it's a good fit first, because that could be a devastating financial decision if it's not a good fit and you end up buying the practice. And I've done lawsuits over that sort of thing, where the person purchasing the practice is suing the person who sold it because the patients weren't as advertised or just showed up on paper but weren't real loyal patients. And so that was smart of you to do that.
That was and to follow up on that, Kevin, one of the things I like about it, we keep on coming across themes. And previously the one theme was fail fast. He brought up a second theme, which is try different stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like that, because especially for people coming straight out of school, I mean, that have made a career choice but has different
options
within that choice being a doctor, being a lawyer.
There's a million different flavors of being a lawyer.
Yeah.
You can be all sorts of different things. You can choose to work in a big firm. You can work at a small general practice firm. You can be a niche real estate attorney, and figuring that out right after school at the beginning of your career is better than going to a big firm, hating it and burning out, you know, and then having to figure out what next.
So I think that's two really good lessons. Fail fast, try different stuff.
Another recurring theme I heard from what Andrew said was when we were talking to Monica Kendall, and her topic was turning your clients into a sales team for you, basically.
Yes.
Doing good work for your clients and building referrals that way. And that sounds like that's Arasti's philosophy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a big part of what we practice is what we call like the new patient experience. And you know, it's kind of focusing on a few things in particular, but the point being that, you know, and you see this a lot again in our profession, is you can be an amazing doctor, chiropractic, physical therapist, whatever, but you can be terrible on the experience side. And even if you can fix somebody, like what we do, usually on average fixing people in about 3 visits, if you're terrible on the experience side, it doesn't matter how good you are as a doc, you're going to fail very quickly. So it's really focusing on that experience in multiple ways, you know, from as little as how often we kind of follow up with the patient. So to give you an idea, when somebody calls in to schedule an appointment, we have people who kind of handle the scheduling. There's times where networking wise, I might give somebody my card and they'll reach out to me, which is totally fine. I do that a lot and kind of handle it first, but to handle a lot of sort of the small stuff, we have somebody that's, you know, trained in that, kind of like you would outsource it basically. Mm-hmm. And we're following up multiple times before we even get to the point where they're coming in for their visit, especially in healthcare on the insurance side. You know, we don't want any of our patients to be surprised about what they're going to pay. So they know exactly what they're going to pay when they come in, but then, you know, when you're at the visit and then the follow-up after that. So it's really making sure that the patient feels like they're not just a patient, I guess. They're more of like, you know, your friend or somebody that, you know, you've known for a while, that kind of thing. So especially when you're spending a full hour with somebody, you got to really be able to provide a good experience too. So
man, there's a fine line between my clients and my friends. You know, I've had a lot of clients become friends and a lot of friends become clients, and yeah, you've got to be down to earth with people and not aloof. And you know, you mentioned that it's not about how good a doctor you are. You better be a good doctor.
Right.
You know, it's about the experience you give people. When I'm hiring attorneys, I don't even bother to look at resumes too much. I let my support staff figure out, you know, there's enough attorneys out there to be hired that I can get good qualified attorneys. The hiring process comes down to, how are you when you're sitting in a room with me? Do you come off as not an a-hole attorney that's stuck up and arrogant? Do you come off as a down-to-earth person? And that's the key for any service business, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about our topic today and how being healthier can help your business. And, you know, I'm going to let you take it away, because Tony and I were saying this isn't exactly our wheelhouse the way some of our other episodes are. So I'll let you kind of lead the conversation on that. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think there's a lot that can go into, you know, as entrepreneurs, it's easy to just be extremely focused on just the business aspect, which is very important. You know, focus is extremely important, but at the same time, if you can do, and doesn't have to be big, crazy things. It's a lot of small things that you can do on the side. In health, I like to say that health should be habitual. It shouldn't be something you have to think a lot about in order to maximize. I mean, maybe in the very beginning, if you're kind of changing things around, changing your routine, but after that, you know, you do it a couple weeks, 3 weeks in general is about how long it takes to form like a habit that you're not actively thinking about. But once you get to that point, it becomes just something you do day to day, and it kind of bleeds over into your business. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go, but to start out, I mean, one in particular that a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners tend to not be so good about is sleep. You know, it's very easy to be burning the middle, staying up till like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, then turning around, waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning. And there's times where that's going to be needed. You know, there's not much you can do about it. You just got to get the work done, get through it, push through it. And then, you know, that afterwards, you know, you'll have that kind of extra time. But I mean, there's the kind of the general idea. Everybody needs a little bit of a different amount of sleep. And there's a lot of great apps out now that, if you got an iPhone or even like on the Fitbit and some of the other things where you can kind of track and figure out exactly how much sleep you need. I know some people that they do great on 5 hours of sleep, because you'll hear sort of the magic like 8 hours of sleep, and that's not true for everybody. Some people can function amazingly well and from a health standpoint be totally fine on 5-6 hours of sleep. Other people do need that kind of 8 full hours of good sleep. So if you can use, typically like an app is a great way to do it. After a couple weeks, you'll have a good idea of how much sleep you actually need. You may find out, hey, I need less sleep, or you may even learn like getting up at 7 o'clock is not when I should be getting up. I should be getting up at 6 or 6:30 or like 7:30, because either I'm sleeping just a little too much and now I'm waking up groggy, or I'm sleeping a little too less or whatever, and now I'm waking up groggy and I have a slower start to my day. So learning about how much sleep you actually need is a great thing to kind of start out with. And then from there, kind of chronologically, it's like your morning routine. And I think I wrote an article about this not too long ago, but the morning routine can be huge for entrepreneurs. The big things with that is you don't want to spend, I think it's Tim Ferriss that wrote in the 4-Hour Workweek that we all have like a certain amount of like mental juice that we have each day. It starts at full when you wake up, and then it's depleted as the day goes on. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to start burning that juice on like, okay, what am I gonna eat for breakfast today, and what do I need to do in the first hour of my day that's not related to my business? Your routine should be just that in the morning. It should be a routine that you don't really think about, but at the same time does things that's going to maximize the rest of your day. Some common things that like successful entrepreneurs do, we'll say first hour when they wake up, usually you're going to want to start with like a big cup of water. A lot of people take a shower in the morning. Well, think of that cup of water as like an inside shower, basically, kind of gets things moving. Then from there, usually you're looking at some kind of like activity. It doesn't have to be your workout that day. You don't have to get up and do an hour of weightlifting if that's what you like to do at some point during the day. But even 5 to 10 minutes of just moving, jumping jacks, light stuff, that gets the blood pumping, kind of gets your hormones kind of pushing in the right direction, basically. Without going into too much crazy detail, you can read a little bit more in the article that I wrote. But when you first wake up in the morning, you've got certain hormones that are kind of pushed higher. That's what wakes you up. It's basically the hormone that's kind of like the stress hormone, but I call it sort of the get things done hormone. It becomes a stress hormone if you don't really know how to sort of control your life and your nutrition and all that stuff. But you want to use like your normal physiology to your benefit. So get up, glass of water, a little bit of exercise. Then, you've got some options. A lot of people will do something like meditation. I don't really like to do meditation first thing in the morning because I find that I'm either too awake and I don't want to focus on meditation, or if I'm a little tired, I don't want to feel more tired. So I do meditation like in the afternoon, normally when I need to like refocus. So in that,
tell me more about meditation.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of successful people that do that. And when I think about doing that, I'd love to do it. When I think about doing that, it feels like I'm just sitting there wasting my time.
Well, you're better than me, because when I try it, I go to sleep.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. I think meditation is not something for everybody, but the way I kind of see it, and it's something a little newer for me that I've been trying out. But I think, if you're somebody who maybe is a morning meditation, that's when you're going to take that time to, think about what you want to accomplish that day. A lot of successful entrepreneurs have a diary that they either like a success journal or something like that. They write down that when they go to bed, right before they go to bed, they write down what they accomplished that day. Like, hey, I closed this deal, or I did this and this and that. Then they write down what they want to achieve the next day. Then when they wake up in the morning, they write down what they're grateful for. And then they read back through, what they wanted to achieve that day, and then look at what they achieved the day before. And then you can kind of segue that into the meditation. The way I look at meditation is your focus should be on, what you want to accomplish that day, but it should be in the same vein of what you sort of, what your kind of purposeful actions are, I guess. A lot of people see meditation as a way to kind of quiet the mind, and that's important. You do want to start the meditation with your goal is to kind of quiet your thoughts as much as possible. Once you kind of achieve that, I think then it's good to segue into kind of focusing really intently, whether it's like mantras or something like that, repeating goals, so that you kind of put your mind into a certain wavelength to achieve those things. It's kind of like the idea of focusing on your subconscious. So the more you do something, it becomes a subconscious act that bleeds over into your conscience. It's like if you go to work every day and the thought that comes in your mind is, I hate my job. The more you do that, more it becomes a subconscious thought. So even though, maybe your job gets better, something changes, you're still going to be like, I hate my job, because that's what you think about all the time. So that's kind of how I see meditation, as like a way to pump up the subconscious thoughts in the way that you want, basically.
I've been in cycles where my job was really stressful. When I was holding the world up by my shoulders and practicing law and managing and doing all the networking all by myself, and I'd get in bad habits where I'd, just grab my cup of coffee, skip breakfast, probably skip lunch, and just feel like stressed out throughout the whole day. And several months ago, my job got less stressful objectively, but I'm still stuck in my stress habit mode where I'm doing all the bad things that I shouldn't be doing to deal with stress. But objectively, the stress shouldn't be there because, I'm podcasting right now. How stressful is this? Right?
Yeah.
So I think meditation, that's something I'm going to try to get around, get the day reset and not just fall into my bad habits of, thinking I'm stressed when I shouldn't be.
So Andrew, you're not really talking about mindfulness, correct? I mean, you're not talking about being in that no mind state, because your meditation is interesting because what I've read about it, the focus is either on your breath or something, and really just not really thinking about what you want to accomplish, but you actually are using meditation to calm yourself down and accomplish what you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the mindfulness at the beginning, and depending on how much time you want to spend, for me, when I do it, it's usually about 15 or so minutes, maybe a little bit longer. But I think starting with that, the mindfulness, kind of calming things down, and then moving into like the purposeful thought, basically.
Obviously, you've been doing this for a while. Right?
Not a real long time.
No?
It's just something I started like a few weeks ago, honestly.
Okay.
It's a fairly new thing, but I'm liking it so far.
Go ahead, Tony.
So in that 15 minutes, how much of that time is...
Probably lately, I think it's been about maybe half,
Okay.
a little less. I kind of like tweaking it, so it's an interesting experiment.
That's interesting. Do you have a blog article or plan to do a blog article on that?
Yeah, I definitely at some point we'll talk about.
I just set you up.
Yeah.
Try to learn, bro.
Thank you. No, but I mean, there's a lot of good apps too on meditation. Headspace is one that I like. There's a couple others. I mean, you can get real intent with it. I mean, they've got this thing that you can put around your head that will actually give you like feedback on how you're doing. I don't do all that. Maybe in the future I'll try it out and then write an article on that too. So, but no, it's I think it's a good habit to develop for sure. And then some more morning stuff. Nutrition, I think for me is a big one. Obviously, being in the field that I'm in, and I could talk about the healthcare field all day, but for me, it's starting out with good nutrition, because I've kind of lost weight, gained weight, kind of gone through all that stuff. So I know what nutrition works for my body, what doesn't. And for me, what works really well is to basically like start with a smoothie in the morning. And then I want to put things in there that I know, one, help with, cognition, thinking, good like brain health stuff, but also are going to, what I say, like give energy and not take energy. Things that are going to take energy. For most people, that's going to be like your carbs and your breads and the stuff that kind of everybody knows, but maybe they don't really pay attention to. That's going to take more energy for your body to start to initially break down, then it's going to be turning into energy later. So instead of like starting and having and keeping that, the get stuff done hormone going, you're going to turn around and slow yourself down before you even get going with your day.
Okay,
So,
you did it. What's that hormone?
So
I want the technical name of that hormone.
yeah. So yeah, put me on the spot now. I'm totally blanking on the name of this hormone here.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. I'll write an article about it later.
Get
but
stuff done
yeah,
hormone.
get stuff done hormone. The article's up there right now. But it's the stress hormone. It's not just one. There's a couple. But there's a main one. But I'd link to it in the show notes, and I'll give you the name later.
So what goes into your smoothie?
Right now, that's a good question. Right now, typically some kind of berry, like usually raspberries, blueberries. I put some almond butter, coconut oil. I put avocado. I usually cut off some fresh turmeric, and then basically a bunch of spinach.
How long does it take you to do?
I've got it down to like 5 minutes if
really?
I do it quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times now I make it the night before. I've got this awesome thermos that will keep things cold for 24 hours. So I just put it in the fridge, and then
it doesn't get all gunky when you.
No, it doesn't. No, it stays really good. So
I think we've all heard about doing a smoothie.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that a lot of people are like me. I hear smoothie and I think about a process.
Yeah.
And then I check out. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's not like a Pop-Tart.
No,
Pop-Tart's
it's,
easier.
it's faster than making your breakfast. I've done that before, and I did basically the same one you did, except I put protein powder in it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, the thing with protein powder is if you do a night before type situation, it'll dissociate
That's
from
what was
the
making my
smoothie,
smoothies
so it'll
gunky.
get kind of
Yeah.
nasty and gunky.
Ah.
Yeah, so if you put protein powder in, you got to drink it pretty much right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do everything like
Oh, sorry.
balls to the wall.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
so
Yes, you do.
the get stuff done hormone cortisol.
That's it.
So,
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
had a little,
And I can, for people who aren't watching this on video, he did not look that up on Google. That
No, he
came out of his brain.
little lapse there.
He Googled his mind.
Yeah, it's because I had a sandwich before this. Ate the wrong stuff. No. Anyways.
So, I was gonna say I do everything balls to the wall, and I've tried the smoothie thing before. And
Yeah.
when I do it, I'll bring a thermos to work with me, and that'll be my lunch because I figure I'll just pound lunch and keep working, and that's great until about 3 p.m. when my brain stops working.
Yeah.
Because I find that if I don't have lunch, my brain can function better than if I have done the smoothie lunch. Am I just crazy, or is that?
So you're saying when you have the smoothie for lunch
and for breakfast? So I
and
haven't
for breakfast.
eaten anything solid yet, and I've got my spinach-based smoothie.
Yeah.
I start getting stupid around 3 p.m.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah.
That's why I stopped, because I can't, as an attorney, I can't be stupid at 3 p.m.
No, and you're not the only one in that boat. For a lot of people, there is, no matter maybe how amazing you are with nutrition, there's always a time of day where your body just kind of slows down a little bit. It's a normal response. It kind of comes back to the cortisol again because your levels are kind of going up and down throughout the day. But that would be a time where, if you weren't a lawyer, if you were just like a caveman, you'd probably take a nap. A short nap, something like that. Now,
that would be nice.
We don't have time to take a nap. So that's where coffee comes in. And, we can go back and forth on if coffee's a good thing, a bad thing.
What's your opinion of that?
I think it's a good thing in moderation, and to not go and get super nerdy on it. But there's another sort of process in the body that also kind of has to do with how awake you feel and alert and all that stuff. So coffee kind of affects that. Coffee is it's in a class of, we'll call nutrients or substances called nootropics or nootropic. There's a bunch of different other ones, but it basically does make you more alert. Now, there's kind of like a fine line for some people where it pushes you to the other side, which then makes you more anxious, makes it more difficult to kind of make a decisive thought. So, if you're going to be a coffee drinker, you want to learn how much is good and how much is too much. But everybody will develop over time, they'll get used to the coffee. So I think it's good to kind of cycle up and down in the amount of coffee that you actually drink. So,
don't the down cycles kill you though?
No, they don't. If you do it in the right way, as long as, let's say you're drinking like 20 ounces, you kind of slowly go from like 20 to 16 to 12, 8, then you can kind of cycle back up again. Similar to, I guess, if you were doing other things.
First doctor I ever heard said caffeine's okay.
Yeah, caffeine's definitely
I've heard
okay.
it's all right for your heart too.
Yeah, I mean, they've got studies showing good for heart health, good for preventing certain types of cancer. You got to take studies with a grain of salt because they're going to tell you the opposite thing in 2 years anyway.
Is red wine currently still good for your heart if you have one glass of it at night?
Red wine is good for your heart if you have one glass. And actually, most people can have up to 2 to 3 glasses a night if the other things are good.
Okay.
The other types of food.
And it's still beneficial at 2 to 3.
Might decrease your productivity, once you hit that third glass. But from purely a standpoint of, arterial health and stuff like that, it's a good thing.
What about beer?
Beer is pretty similar as far as the things that are in it. If we were to put one above the other, red wine is going to be better because it has certain things in it that are a little bit better overall, antioxidants, all that stuff. But they both have sort of the same effect on your circulatory system as far as being an improvement. Now, beer probably sticking more to like 1, 2 maximum.
Yeah, you're funny.
But once you get past that, you're looking at probably diminishing returns. So, but it's all based on what you do in what you eat other parts of the day too. So,
okay, I want to start a new trend.
Yeah.
All right. And as a doctor, I'm asking for your help with this. Promote naps. I do 20-minute power naps all the time.
Yeah.
I hit that 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Man, I sit down, take a nap, and when I wake up, I can go till midnight, 1 o'clock. From that point,
you fall asleep watching Fox News like my grandpa used to?
No. I turn off the radio. I turn off the TV. I shut off my phone except for my alarm, and I set it for 20 minutes, and I close my eyes, and then boom. Love naps. You have an office where you could take a nap during the day if you wanted to. I think you should try that. You should try that. At Anderson, when I worked at Anderson and Arthur Anderson in St. Charles, they actually had rooms, health rooms, where people could go take a nap. It was great.
Well, let's ask the doctor. What do you think of siestas?
I think they're good. I think they can be similar to the effects of caffeine as far as sort of resetting your system. Because again, when your body brings you out of wakefulness and starts to release that cortisol, that get stuff done hormone, doing a nap, you can kind of think of it as maybe speeding up that process a little. So if your cortisol is going down, you're getting tired, and then there will normally be a longer curve to come back up. A nap will sort of skip over that a little bit and push you back into that wakefulness a little bit faster. So, it's not a real amazingly studied thing, but I mean, it is going to help. Like I said, similar to coffee, one or the other.
Cool. I'm doing something right.
This is unrelated to anything business, but on my deathbed, one of my fondest memories will be the day that I just wasn't quite sick, but I just didn't have the mental capacity to go into work and took off and watched 2 back-to-back White Sox preseason baseball games on my couch and drifted in and out of sleep all day.
Sounds like fun.
It was one of the best days of my life. That, then my wedding.
Yeah, nice.
Birth of children.
Yeah.
There's a priority there.
It's a fond memory that's not going away anytime soon.
Well, I like the nap thing, and I love the diary thing.
Yeah.
I've kept a diary since 2002.
Yeah.
And I've talked.
Yeah, you've talked to me about doing that.
I've talked to everybody about it because, you have to record good things, bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next morning when you can review things, and it really does energize you, even the bad things, because once you record the bad things and then hopefully at the end of the day, you've gotten through the bad thing, you feel real good the next morning when you read that and go, oh, I got through that. And ultimately it was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Because we stress ourselves out while we're going through it. And I love that you suggest writing.
Definitely. So, I mean, kind of jumping forward from, the morning routine, I could talk on that forever, but, getting a little bit more into as the day goes on, it kind of depends, I guess, too, on what your day looks like. But for me, if I have a real busy day, I might have 4 solid hours of work, an hour for lunch, and then another straight 4 solid, again, being patient with patients for a full hour. I mean, it's like back to back to back, you take a second to go to the bathroom or something like that. But typically, some other stuff during the day that can help you be more efficient. If you do have a little bit of a chance for a break, I like what I've done recently and using different apps. One's called Workflowy. It's sort of like a to-do type list. And there's a lot of stuff out there for this. But for me, I don't like to have real crazy to-do lists or real expansive calendars because most of my day is spent with patients. But for me, it's kind of going back and looking at how I'm doing on achieving the goals that I set for the day. Am I in the, am I being productive? Am I not being productive? And the other side of that too is figuring out how you work best. And for me, if I'm not with a patient, because that time is pretty much the same every time, it's an hour, it's split into 30 minutes. But if I'm doing something marketing wise or networking or working on notes or whatever, writing content, I kind of work in 25-minute bursts. It's another type of principle where it's like so if I'm going to write an article, for example, I'll say, okay, I have an hour to write the article, and I'm going to be done with it in an hour, no matter what, no matter how maybe good or bad it is, it's got to be done in an hour. I'll do 25 minutes of writing, which just straight up writing. I'll take a 5-minute break, maybe a 10-minute break. And it's not like I'm just sitting there staring at the wall. I'm doing something that maybe is going to allow me to kind of come down off that riding high, maybe just focus on something I'm grateful on, just little things like that, something that doesn't require a lot of thought. And then bam, I'm right back into writing for another 25 minutes. Hopefully article's done. I mean, it kind of has to be, at least that's what I'm telling myself within that hour. That works for some people. It works for me. I'm not the type of person that could sit down, at least and write content for like 2 hours straight. I by that hour point, I'm
diminishing return.
Yeah, exactly. So
do you do that?
No, I
you just bang it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm lucky enough. Well, lucky or unlucky, my day is usually so jacked up, like Andrew's is, that I usually only have a half hour here or there to do stuff. But I haven't thought of it in that way before. But when I look at my calendar, I've got maybe an hour or a half hour window to get done everything that needs to be done in the day. So, you got to be efficient. If you've only got so much time, you have to learn to be efficient. It sounds like you're forcing yourself to only have so much time, and makes you efficient. So.
Yeah. There's actually an app called I think it's Tomato Timer, which does this exact thing. Like it's a little tomato and you get so many tomatoes to get a thing done.
I'd like to see what your iPhone looks like. It
sounds like it's a
sounds like it's crowded.
Yeah, definitely.
I wish I would have. I've heard the tip, but I'm a programmer by trade, so I can just write hours of code.
Yeah.
And I guess for some people it doesn't work because, like for me, when I get into that flow of the code, I can't break that flow.
Yeah.
Or I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm just dead in the water. So I guess for writing I can see it, but for other disciplines I can see it being.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm really, like you said, in the flow, I won't, if the timer goes off, I won't stop. But if I find that I'm kind of hitting a lull in the article, I'll go, okay, and the thing goes off, I'll stop and kind of rethink about what I'm going to do.
Interesting. I'll have to take that.
Well, Andrew, if someone wants to reach you and schedule a consultation with you, how do they get through to you?
Yeah, so a couple of different ways. If you just search on Google like Airrosti, AIRROSTI, and my name, Andrew Flesner with one S, I'll pop up, be the first thing. I mean, if you search Andrew Flesner, you'll find me under Airrosti or LinkedIn or other articles that I've written. So that's pretty much the quickest way to find me. And usually you'll find my associated number, but my email is Dr. A. Flesner at Airrosti.com, DRAFLESNER at AIRROSTI.com.
That's not going to happen for you, Andrew. But he is easily accessible on the seizeyourbusiness.com webpage because he's a contributor.
Yes.
So if you just go to seizeyourbusiness.com and go to the About Us page, we've got all his contact information up there.
That was funny.
And so he'll be writing a lot of health and lifestyle articles. There's 3 up right now as of this recording, but by the time we actually publish this, there'll probably be 4 or 5. So so check out his articles if you want to learn more, and I'm sure we'll be having you back a lot. And thanks so much for sharing your tips with us.
Yes, thank you.
Definitely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.